So tell me about Envision Solar's solar trees. We're on a parking deck in San Diego, and the trees are all around us. We're in a virtual forest.
That's right. You have a virtual forest here which is actually generating 200 kilowatts of nice green renewable energy from an energy source that we actually own here in Southern California. That is the sun. You own it all across the United States, of course, so it means that we're generating electricity without having to go to other people who we might not otherwise be friends with to get the energy source here.
So this is from 2008, but you have versions of this that incorporate electric car charging, and you also have versions that track the sun.
That's right. So you're quite right. These trees were installed in 2008. They've been operating flawlessly since that time. As I mentioned earlier, they've been operating over nameplate. In other words, they've been producing more electricity than they were designed to since that time. But you're quite right. We now have some nice new innovations. We now have tracking trees. In other words, the canopies that you're looking at here actually track the sun as they move across the sky. They do it in a very innovative way, which allows us to track the sun without actually swinging into the drive aisles. And then also we incorporate a variety of different devices into the columns of the trees, sort of most famously electric vehicle charging stations, so that we can now charge electric vehicles from renewable energy as opposed to using whatever the carbon-based generation of that electricity is. And that makes the electric vehicles actually fully emissions-free rather than just being tailpipe emissions-free as their claim goes today. We also integrate some other things into the columns now, lighting, very attractively integrated, and then we can put a variety of other communications devices. Could be security cameras, could be radios, or even flat screen televisions for advertising and that sort of thing.
And one of these panels here, we can see the panel there, that can do like 6 cars at once.
Yes, actually, if you parked 6 electric vehicles underneath one of our arrays here, underneath one of our canopies, it would generate enough electricity to fully charge those 6 electric vehicles during the course of a given day. So if you arrived at work, for example, in the morning, plugged in, by the time you came back, your car would be fully recharged and from a renewable source. And we think that's a very important idea for people to get their heads around, the idea of charging during the day at work, but not doing it in a way which impacts the electric grid, which, as we know, is already strained with the current demands in the afternoons, doing it in a way which actually is augmenting the electric grid by putting renewable energy onto the grid rather than taking away from it. So it's a great benefit of the tree. Oh, the other thing that's interesting about these trees is, of course, they're shading the cars, and electric vehicles use about 80% of the electricity that they take on board when you first plug them in to cool the battery down to a nice temperature where it will accept a charge. Well, if you're shaded, that can knock about 100 degrees of ambient temperature off the inside of the vehicle.
That's a good point. I hadn't heard that one before.
And so that's a low-tech part of the solution here, which is very helpful. So not only are we giving you renewable energy to charge a battery, but we're also making that charging more efficient by keeping your vehicle cooler while it's out here parked in the sunlight. Or, conversely, we're defending it from hail, snow, rain, and all sorts of other things if you're parked somewhere else where you have those types of weather
Actually,
conditions.
when you think about it, even not talking about the electric cars, this is San Diego, it gets very hot, so if you think about all these cars being not heated up, you think of all the air conditioning that isn't running.
That's an excellent point. You're absolutely right.
Have to cool them down.
Cooling's about one of the most energy intensive things that we do, so if we can avoid that through the low-tech idea of shading them, and of course you're absolutely right. Again, it's 100 degrees of ambient temperature. You don't have to use gasoline in that instance to bring down to something that's comfortable. So it's very important. And then ultimately, let's face it, people prefer coming back to a comfortable vehicle than one that's going to burn them when they sit in the seats, right? Nothing wrong with that either.
So here you have a look at the solar trees, the solar grove here at the University of California at San Diego. One of 2 installations, I understand, that you actually have in San Diego.
And, actually, it's one of many that we have in San Diego. It's 2 that we have on this university campus.
2 on the campus.
But I would also like to point out that we've deployed in all 4 corners of this great country and even internationally as well. So people often think, okay, Southern California, it's sunny. Well, it clearly isn't today. That makes sense there. But the truth of the matter is we can make these things make sense in the northeast of the United States. We're deploying in Michigan right now, where we have tremendous snowfall and all sorts of other things, and yet they still function very well in those environments too. So solar is something we can take advantage of all across the country. It's not limited to that sort of crescent in the southwestern part of the country.
All right, thank you.